Hello, my name is Michael Ruiz. I am a CPA and MBA candidate. I am also an enrolled agent, and I work in public accounting, servicing tax clients, and I am in Professor Wu's auditing class. And today I'll be teaching you guys how to process a lot of information using the Tableau software so you could get good data and analytics and presentation for your audits and for all your customer needs. This is the main page when you open up Tableau. Here you can see all the different tools that they have available. For our sake, we're going to be opening an Excel, Microsoft Excel file. And there you can see all the data on the Excel was digested and put into all the buckets that we'll be using to perform analytics. And much like in Excel, you can add a new worksheet, um, and these worksheets function the same way as Excel worksheets do. But now here you'll see, almost like a pivot table, you can drag and drop values um, to columns and rows. Tableau will then use these values and the data that is attributed to them to create different presentations. Here you can see we used the invoice date, and by using that plus sign, I was able to break it down from year to quarter to month. Now we're displaying all the data by month and the sum of the invoice totals. For our exercise, though, we want to see just the 2021 revenue trends. So we go and we drag and drop the invoice date into the filter um, selection there. And by double clicking years, we're able to select 2021. Now you can see that we have all months of 2021 and the corresponding invoice totals represented in our 2021 revenue trend. On the bottom, I went ahead and changed the worksheet name accordingly. By a simple analysis of this sheet, we could see that September, October, and November were the highest revenue months in 2021. In this portion of the exercise, we are going to be reclassifying some of our values from between dimensions and measures. Dimensions are numbers that might not have a numerical value as far as adding or uh, for data, but they are instead like a customer number that is fixed and is only used as a reference. This includes invoice number, and also we'll be changing order number, as that will not be relevant for summation or other analysis. Those numbers that are not used for summation and other analysis would instead be considered dimensions, and the other variable numbers would be considered measures by which we will be conducting our analysis. Because we moved customer number to dimensions, we can now insert it to the column section as a referential dimension, and then on the rows, we can add the invoice amount or total. Now we can see in a bar graph by customer what is the total sum of their invoice. I do feel like there's a better way to display this information though. So Tableau provides on the top right a show me portion. Here you can see all the different presentations that they have available, and I went ahead and picked the packed bubbles. So you can see in just sheer size what customers um, have different invoice totals and how that is affected in the size of their packed bubble. Additionally, we can go ahead and filter this information. I went ahead and filtered it by invoice total and used the color function. Now you can see not only is the size different, but now the colors reflect the differences as well. So that same large customer, 10014, is now a dark color. We can go ahead and undo this with Control Z or that back arrow. Now that we have the packed bubbles presentation for our total sales by customer, I thought it would be a good idea to go ahead and duplicate this worksheet on the bottom so we maintain our data, and then change the function by which we measure our measures. I'd go ahead and change the tab name or the worksheet name to average sales by customer, because I'm going to go ahead and instead of viewing this as total sales, I want it to be represented as average sales, so we can see what customer um, is what the average sales per customer do to these bubbles. By going to measure and changing it to average. Here we can see that the data is a lot closer. It is not as obvious to point out which is the biggest average invoice total for customers. Maybe some customers had more sales or more engagements throughout the year, and that's the difference. But here, once we put it in the circles, we can see that there's huge outliers. customer 100271, 100208 were two of the three highest yielding average customers. Now that we were able to play around a little bit with the presentation on straightforward measures and dimensions, we're going to create a new worksheet and play around with forecasting. By using some of the same principles that we learned earlier, we are going to go ahead and add invoice date and invoice total. Here I already did it, but I went ahead and converted it to continuous, as you can see, and put this in the columns as we did before. And I'm going to go ahead and also add invoice total to the rows. This looks similar to what we did before, and again I will go and expand this to a monthly analysis, and I'm going to go ahead and filter it again like we did before. Here I'm going to use a range of dates where I select up to the third quarter of 2021, so September 30th. We're going to go ahead and using this data, we're going to create a forecast for the last 3 months, so October, November, and December. By doing that, you go on the top and go click on forecast. Drag it onto the graph and it creates a forecast projection. Clicking edit on the line, we can adjust it here to the values that we want, and we wanted 3 months, the last 3 months of the year. Ignore the last 0 months because we do want to include our data for September. Now we go to custom and the trend will be additive. Here you can see that we're including September 2021 and there's our forecast line for the last quarter of 2021. October of 2021, the estimated forecasted invoice total was $128,030. Then for November, it's $143,413. And December, $158,796. We'll now compare this against the actual numbers that we have from our financials. To compare against actual sales, we're going to go ahead and almost identically recreate the same plot points that we used for a forecast, except we're going to include that last quarter, that fourth quarter of 2021, and we won't be using a forecast analytics projection. The same going with year invoice date on the columns and invoice total on the rows. We're going to expand it to monthly. Then again, we're going to drop that invoice date to the filter tab. Here we're going to select the range of dates, but instead of cutting it off at 9:30, we're going to include all the way through December 31st of 2021. Now we can see that the chart is significantly different from the forecasted projections. Actual sales for October were $223,000, November $259,000, and in December we went way down and we only have almost $78,000. Now that we compiled all our data and we made all these presentations, let's create a dashboard so that all the information is displayed together and we can make a cohesive statement about the financials as tested and as displayed in these new presentations. We have the ability to drop in all of our created displays here. So once you get everything start dropping in, you can see how you could kind of maneuver everything so that it displays in the most effective way possible. Now everything is getting sorted out and is displayed with the right dimensions, so we could give it a good look. I believe that by using all this data and displaying it in the right size and alongside comparable data, we're able to make better assertions and evaluations on the data now that it's side by side with some of the other compiled efforts, that now we have something to compare against. And since they're so close, we can really see just what we're looking at. Seeing this displayed all together, we could see just how dramatically October and November overperformed based on the projection, the forecasted projection. And then we can also see how December underperformed. One of the flaws of the forecast is that it uses data that in the past and cannot project for future events as accurately as one would like. I think that the auditor might want to look into just what happened in those months and why the income was so inconsistent during those months. Some evidence to support the differences from the forecast to the actual could be invoices, uh, customer payments, if using the cash basis, and other methods of trying to create evidence to support this fall and this rise in income during those months. So that way, when they make their opinion on the financial statements, they have the support that they need uh, to validate that. In conclusion, I think that Tableau is a super comprehensive and powerful software that could be very beneficial for accountants of all trades, not just auditors, but specifically in the audit use case. I think it did a really good job of comparing actual data against forecasted data so we could test it. It also gave us presentation on total sales by customer and average sales by customer so that we can make assessments on um, what the uh, sales comprised of and which customers were um, necessary to potentially review more of their invoicing and see if we needed additional evidence to support revenue numbers. Um, I think that if I had access to the software in the future, I would definitely be using it, um, especially in either an audit or a consulting use case where you can really display um, data in a uh, pleasant and informative presentation. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the instructional video.